gotten declared to play as well. Take you inside the tent, get you updated on the latest injuries in the Bay. Proud to partner with UCSF Health on this segment and bring in Professor and Chief of Sports Medicine at UCSF, Dr. Brian Feeley. Happy New Year, Doc.
Happy New Year to you all.
Great to have you, and there's no place to start other than Monday Night Football. All of us have been trying to get as much from medical professionals as possible to know what you saw, what you think Damar Hamlin is going through right now. What's the situation through your eyes?
Yeah, I mean, I think for those of us that saw it, I saw it probably 45 minutes to an hour afterwards, and it's really scary. I think the most likely thing that happened is you can get hit in certain parts of your cardiac rhythm, and if you get hit, even if it's not too hard, right at the right millisecond, it can literally stop your heart, and that's probably what happened. You can see him get hit. It's a pretty innocuous hit for the NFL. He stands up, and then, that's about 5 seconds after that initial hit, and then he passes out. And if your heart's arrested, then you're going to need the instant CPR. Those sort of things often lead to your heart being in a dysrhythmia for days, sometimes weeks, and even months afterwards. So the most important thing is the athletic training staff and the medical staff were on the field right away. They initiated CPR. There wasn't any messing around in what's going on. They just initiated emergency services. And I think that was, all things considered, really, really remarkable. And, so many different injuries we see in football are extremity injuries or things where athletes are just lying on the field. Seeing something like that and seeing the medical team spring into action and literally save his life is really impressive.
It was incredible to see it happen in real time and on the field. Like you say, they were able to use CPR and use an AED to help restore some sort of heart rhythm. How critical was it, though, to get him oxygen? And how long can a human being go in that state without oxygen getting to the brain before really bad things start to happen?
I mean, in general, you can hold your breath for about 2 to 3 minutes before you start really feeling the need to take another breath. And that's if you are in peak condition and you've trained yourself to do it. When you're already out of breath and you're kind of breathing hard from an athletic excursion, you probably have a minute to a minute and a half before you're going to have temporary changes, and probably 3 to 4 minutes before you have permanent changes. So the fact that they got out there, they initiated CPR, they got him intubated, which means putting a breathing tube down so they can more effectively deliver oxygen to him, was critical to at least getting him stabilized enough to get him off the field into the hospital.
Oh, just a moment that all of us are still trying to work our way through, and sending him good thoughts. Dr. Brian Feeley with us on 95.7 The Game. Let's talk about some of the 49er injuries, minor though they are in comparison to what we were just discussing. When you see that Christian McCaffrey has a, quote, minor ankle sprain, what's your thought on that and any potential dangers for this week?
Yeah, I think there's no better group than athletic trainers to get people back from ankle sprain. So if it's a minor sprain, meaning that there's no ankle instability, there's minimal swelling, I think there's probably a pretty good chance he plays. But realistically, we have a good core of running backs, and if he's not feeling 100%, I would imagine that they're going to limit his snap count enough so that he's really ready to go the following week, or ideally the week after that with a bye and our first place seeding in the NFC.
Another MCL sprain to talk about. This time it's Aaron Banks, an offensive lineman. How does that affect his ability to come back and maybe be available for a first-round playoff match?
I think it's really based on the severity of the injury. And for the most part, MCL sprains without too much swelling in the knee and without any actual ligamentous instability, the average return to play is within 2 weeks. So if he's feeling pretty good and he's got good lateral movement and they can brace him as most offensive linemen are, I think there's a pretty good chance he can play in that first week of the playoffs.
Doc, here's something I wanted to ask you that's a little off the map, but I've been seeing a lot of it about Steph Curry with the shoulder injury. We watch him on the sideline. We watch him celebrate, arms up, arms down, and whatnot. And I've seen some people say, oh, look at that movement. That's indicative of some really good progress. Are we overdoing that, or can you actually gather something from just watching him move around on the bench?
Yeah, it reminds me of my mother-in-law who says she can tell how healthy Steph looks based on the pallor of his skin when he's playing. I think we're reading too much into it.
Okay.
When you've got a shoulder subluxation, you're going to have pretty much full range of motion pretty quickly, and it's really a question of whether or not he's got full strength and really feels like he's got that full coordinated strength when he's fatigued on when he goes back. And really what they're trying to avoid is that second subluxation or dislocation, because that really changes the map and what the long-term outlook is for him. So yes, he can celebrate. Yes, he can move his arms around. That's not going to be the same as that eccentric load as trying to block a shot or trying to go for a steal when somebody's moving against you. So I'm glad he's celebrating. I'm glad the Warriors have a lot of reasons to celebrate, but I wouldn't read too much into it.
I had that frequent subluxation, and I know what a nightmare it can be. Andrew Wiggins has been out since December with an adductor strain. He seemed ready to come back. Then he got sick. When he does come back from the adductor, is he going to be on some sort of a minutes restriction, you think?
You know, if you look at how the medical staff of the Warriors works, I would guess that, yes, he's going to be at least somewhat restricted. I think hopefully that illness gives him a little bit more time to come back fully recovered. If you look at the best comp is in hockey players who get these adductor strains a lot. On average, the most hockey players will be out for 3 to 4 weeks, and they'll be limited for the next 1 to 2 coming back. And I think it's reasonable, especially with the Warriors winning right now, let him rest, let him recover, let him come back at 100%, again, to make sure he doesn't re-strain it and be out for an even longer period of time as the season gets more critical.
Doc, great to have you as always, and Happy New Year.
All right, Happy New Year to you guys.
Okay, there he goes. Dr. Brian Feeley, and the proceeding was sponsored by UCSF Health.